And we are live with Lush Tongue Sound Meditation, Improv and Musings. This is Ame, and my middle name, the first two letters are Om, and that's my real government name. No connection to One Taste. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start off with chanting Om, which you can do in unison with me or in harmony, or you can improvise your own melody with the Om. Here we go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Luster, for the comment. All right. So, first, a few announcements. You are at Lush Tongue Sound Meditation, Improv and Musings, where I share Om as well as sometimes other meditation uh, techniques or words or sounds, mantras. Um, and sometimes we play around with improvisation as well, vocal improvisation. And I share what's on my heart, the world from perspective of consciousness expansion, which involves a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of metaphysics, a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of worldly affairs, politics, all of that. Um, but all from a dimension of, uh, how does this evolve our consciousness? So where I'd like to begin is by giving you the opportunity to contribute to this experience by making a contribution via Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal. All are Lush Tongue. So let's see, Venmo is at Lush Tongue, Cash App is hashtag Lush Tongue, and PayPal is paypal.me/Lush Tongue. So made it all very simple. Um, and if you'd like to get on my newsletter, which I send out on Tuesdays, you can click the link that will soon be in the description if it's not there now. As I jump around on these different platforms, for this particular episode, I'm using StreamYard. Sometimes I use Zoom. Yeah. So there's that. And somewhere on that docket, I mentioned that I do courses for kids on a platform called OutSchool. And I have a wonderful ongoing class called The Fundamentals of Singing. So if you have any young ones in your life who would benefit from taking this online course, you can send them my way and click that link in the description. Okay, I think that pretty much covers announcements for now. So today, I want to share one really resonant insight in light of this intense week that we've had here in the United States around the election and the sense of limbo that a lot of folks feel that, even though there was a projected winner. There's so much polarity, and so much, you know, fear that the seemingly outgoing president, kick up a storm and put the death grip um, in these last few days of the current presidency. So, all that being said, I've been doing an ongoing series on the various elements of nature. So there's many different ways that they're codified, but I'm focused on the four: earth, air, fire, water. Um, and let's see, we covered water, fire. Nope, sorry, we covered air, fire, and today we're focusing on earth. And so, first, I want to show you in the book club that I'm running called Soul Insights. The book we're looking at right now is called The Big Leap. And that book is all about shedding and dissolving and moving through self limiting beliefs. Those ideas, those paradigms that we inherited unconsciously at a young age that tells us who we can be and what we can do in the world. And so dissolving those so that we can be and do more than we ever could have imagined. So that's the synopsis of the book. It's a great book. Highly recommend you read it. Highly recommend you join the Facebook book club if you are a woman who is interested in books on self-development. That is the focus of Soul Insights. So in this book, he talked about this concept, which I will share the visual. Let's see. Where is it? Here we are. Okay. So you should be seeing a picture of a cardboard box. And the author of The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks, this idea is so exciting to me. I had to have it spill out of the book club and share it here. This idea of a box, thinking outside of the box, that's a very common phrase. So the box itself is a metaphor for a paradigm, any structural framework for how you show up in the world. Some idea that you have about life, the way the world is. Another way to think about it is, so that there's the notion of, the Pollyannas of the world who wear the rose-colored glasses, and the people who often deride the Pollyannas of the world for being overly idealistic and wearing rose-colored glasses. More often than not, the people saying that don't realize that they're wearing glasses as well. Their glasses may be a different color. Their glasses might be green or purple, but they don't recognize that they too are wearing glasses. Now, for reasons, it's obvious to them that the Pollyannas are wearing glasses, specifically of the rose persuasion. But it's not as obvious to them that they too are wearing glasses. They too have a filter through which they see the world. They too have a certain lens, a certain paradigm, a certain box that all their ideas about the way the world is, they all happen to fit in that box. And without explicitly talking about the details of politics, because it's not really the details that matter. I'm speaking archetypally. I'm speaking overarching structure of how we humans have been organizing ourselves, particularly in the United States, for the past several hundred years, and the ways in which we organize ourselves is based on even older paradigms of fundamentally love and fear, some variation of love and fear. And different people would interpret where love is expressed and where fear is expressed, or some combination of the two. um, so we're okay. So let me how do I put it? Okay, there's this stereotype that the left wing and the right wing of the United States, on that kind of concrete level, there's this notion that the left wing are the idealistic Pollyannas with the rose-colored glasses, while it's the right wing who are the rational pragmatists. And there's some grain of truth there that you can easily find and easily propagate if you're looking for it. Those are the two boxes. And also, beyond those boxes, there are all these multidimensional humans that exist all across the ideological spectrum in ways that don't fit neatly into any boxes. So there's a stereotype and then there's reality. Reality is much more idiosyncratic uh, and messy and dynamic, kind of like vocal improvisation. So bringing that all back. So that's just one example of how people tend to view that paradigm of those people over there having on rose-colored glasses, or having glasses that color the way they see the world, but they don't see how their own thoughts and perceptions are colored by the invisible glasses that they're wearing. So that I'm really just using left wing and right wing as a metaphor for that ultimately. So we have these boxes, yeah? And then you have this other way of experiencing experience, other way of experiencing life, experiencing the world around you. And this other way looks kind of like this. Let's pull up this image. All right, now you should see before you a spiral. And depending on your perspective, you could see it as a spiral going infinitely upward. You could see it as a spiral going infinitely inward. You could see it as a spiral going infinitely outward. And you can see it as a spiral going infinitely downward. So the point of the spiral is that it is infinite. And yet, as you move through the spiral, you hit the same latitude or longitude, but just at a different level. Like you get to see the same shape from a different perspective, from a higher perspective, or from a deeper perspective, depending on your perspective of how you're looking at the spiral. So when you're in a box, your paradigm is limited to only what can fit inside of that box. But when you open that box and step into the spiral, suddenly there are possibilities that you weren't aware of, or that you didn't see before, you didn't notice before. It's like taking off your glasses taking off those glasses that you've been wearing for so long that you don't see the tint anymore. You just see, quote unquote, the way the world is. And then one day you take those glasses off, you step out of the box, and you see forever. You see an infiniteness of possibility. And again, I relate that to what's been happening this past year, but particularly this past week in the United States with the election. There are two deeply entrenched boxes right now, as far as the way that they're propagated in the media. In everyday life, again, things are much more idiosyncratic than we may be led to believe, just looking at what's on the media. But the media is very effective at creating the illusion of two boxes when really it's all not even a spiral. It's all a fractal, which is a like a combination of boxes and spirals and all the shapes you can think of, and they're all interconnected, and what affects one thing has a ripple effect on the whole thing. Like it's, real life is so much more dynamic than the boxes that we are um, put in, that we are raised in, that we inherit. And so this brings me to earth, the element of earth. How does the element of earth relate to all this? So let's talk about some of the properties of earth, of soil. So earth is our home. It's a floating rock through space, through seemingly infinite space. And so far, we humans have yet to decidedly, it has not yet been confirmed that there are other beings like us, some floating on another rock somewhere in this infinite space. We haven't confirmed that yet. So in the meantime, this is what we got, and we're living on this floating rock together. So let's get to know this rock. Let me pull up this other image here. And of course, I'll speak of it as it relates to consciousness, as it relates to sound, all that good stuff. Okay, so qualities of earth. Earth has a reputation for being a symbol of stability. It's always there, as far as we can tell. It was here long before we got here. It'll be here long before we leave. Earth is our foundation. It's the firmament. It's the ground upon which we stand. It's the original kitchen. It's where we get our source of life. It's what we get our food from. It forms the basis upon which the waters sit, the waters that we drink. It is very responsive to all the other elements around it. So like the air, the earth that exists, the soil that exists in an area that's very windy, that soil will have a very different quality than the soil that's in another region where the air is very humid. The earth, it takes on certain qualities of the other elements around it. It responds to those other elements. So it has this beautiful combination of being responsive and receptive, but also very firm and stable, except when there's an earthquake or a mudslide or a tornado. So it also has its mercurial aspect where it can really shake things up. But when it's not busy shaking things up, it appears to be this very solid, straightforward, kind of boring element. It doesn't blow around like fire and air. And when it does, it's typically not in large enough increments for you to really feel it, or it's for you to really experience it as an airborne element. Except maybe for people who live in windy desert areas or tundra, where the earth, that particular type of earth is blowing along with the wind. What else do I need to say about earth? So earth is one thing that unites us all. We all, in some form or fashion, go back into the earth, whether people are cremated into ashes or whether they're buried or these days, there are people who are like turned into trees, like their bodies are turned into trees somehow. Um, yeah, all the different ways that bodies are buried, that humans are buried. Um, it's the great unifier in that way. It's the great nurturer. It's the great mother. Every type of plant life, every type of plant-based food that we eat comes from the soil, comes from the earth, our earth. Um, any animal protein that we eat, those animals eat some, somewhere along the food chain, it comes back down to the earth. Comes back down to eating the plants and fruits and vegetables, or eating an animal that eats plants and fruits and vegetables. One way or another, the earth is kind of the fundamental aspect of that food chain. And of course, there are many people who believe that only earth-based foods, only plant life should be the food that we eat. And then there are other people who believe that plants and animals, um, that humans are ultimately the stewards of all flora and fauna, and so it's all there for us. So again, various ideologies, but the one thing that everyone can agree on is that plants and fruits and vegetables, everything that comes out of the earth, is available to us as food. And there was something else about that too. Oh yeah, I remember that reading about how there are places where the earth is so clean and so pure that you can actually eat the earth. You can eat the dirt itself. I remember reading about people eating red clay. I want to say in Georgia, in the United States, Georgia red clay. I don't know how clean and pure that dirt is these days, but it is a thing in certain places of the earth that are pristine enough. Of course, now with genetically modified everything, who knows how true that is at this point. Um, but there is this capacity, this potential to have a very beautiful balance between um, all the organic matter of the earth and all the sentient beings along the food chain that live in harmony with the earth. So one thing I can say as far as what people seem to be able to agree on in the United States across the heavy polarization that is propagated in the media, one thing that everyone can seem to agree on is the importance of land and earth and taking care of our earth and being one with the land, being in harmony with the land. Um, we have more than enough land and more than enough food to feed every single person on this planet, even at the point of now having like 8 billion people. Um, and there's more I could say about that as far as the number of people on the planet, but that kind of goes down a whole other rabbit hole that I don't, I don't think I want to go down that rabbit hole today. But what I will say as far as Earth, the beauty of Earth, the power of Earth, when you're feeling foggy and confused, it's helpful to go out in nature and just be one with Earth. Um, Learn how to grow food, learn the seasons, learn the rhythms of Earth, sunrise, sunset, um, the various ways that people have taken care of land and stewarded land for the past, not even thousands, but millions of years. Um, and collectively, humanity's doing something right because we're still here and there's still a lot of healthy, fruitful land, despite the best efforts of some people who are overtaken by greed and have completely lost their connection to the the physical matter of earth. And the harmonious balance of Earth and how that ultimately serves everybody. I think that's all I have to say about that. So let's do an Earth song, not the Michael Jackson Earth song, but for those who've been following my newsletters these past several weeks. So the first newsletter I had was about air. It's called Breath My Air. And then the next one I had was The Fire Within. And then the one for today is Earth My Body. And for those of you who recognize those words as words from a mantra, then you already know for next week, the title will be Water My Blood, because this mantra, it's called Earth My Body, Water My Blood, Breath My Air, and Fire My Spirit. So I will sing that for you. And it goes, before I sing it, one thing I'll mention. So I started with air. I started with the element of air because the elements, they feed each other in a certain sequence. So traditionally, I would actually start with earth, because earth is the foundation upon which we nourish ourselves. I decided to start with air, though, for several reasons. One, I was really inspired by air is all about communication, and I feel like we're experiencing a breakdown in communication, particularly in the United States and politics. Um, dare I say, it's not even a breakdown per se. It's always been a miscommunication. It's always been a dearth of deep listening. We could always use more deep listening. And so because air governs communication, I was inspired to start there. And the sequence of um, the elements, like how they feed and catalyze each other. So air is a catalyst for fire. You know, you need air in order for a fire to start. You can't start fire in a vacuum. You have to have air to spark it. So air breathes into fire. And then fire, once you take the fire out, you're left with ashes. And ashes, that is the new earth. That's what becomes earth. Fire gives way to earth. And then with earth, you when the earth gets wet, when it rains, you get mud. And if you get a lot of rain, that mud eventually liquefies into a creek, into a river, into a sea, into an ocean. And so that's the journey from earth to water. And then water, it evaporates into air. And so the cycle continues. And as I mentioned in a previous broadcast, there are other systems, like I want to say in Chinese medicine, there are 5 elements that are focused on. There are various systems that focus on more than 4 elements, but I decided to focus on just the 4. Okay, so that being said, here is a song of the elements that I learned many moons ago at the home of an amazing healer named Astarte from Astarte Rising. And I will see if I can find an attribution for this song. And if I can find it, I'll put it in the description. So it goes like this. Earth my body, water my blood, breath my air, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, breath my air, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, breath my air, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, breath my air, and fire my spirit. So that's a great mantra for getting you back in touch with nature. If you find yourself going down the rabbit hole of your mind and just kind of getting lost there, and you want to ground yourself in the physicality of nature. If you're not able to actually get out to a park or to the woods or to a beach, any of those traditional places of renewal, restoration, rejuvenation, then you can sit in your house, in your apartment. Um, if you live in a space that has hardwood floors, that's really great. If you have elements of nature within your home, like plants, flowers, sunlight, all those things matter. There's a reason why apartments and houses and condos that have south-facing windows, facing the sun, why they tend to cost more than spaces that don't have south-facing windows. Like, feng shui is a thing, and having access to nature has always been very valuable to humans. Um, so any aspect of nature that you can have, as an avatar inside of your home, if you don't have access to the physical nature of like being in a park full of trees that are hundreds of years old, um, do that. Do what you can in the space that you have. And you can try that mantra. So once again, I'll sing it and then we'll close out on our ohms. So I'll do it a little slower this time. Earth, my body, water, my blood, breath, my air, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, breath, my air, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, breath, my air, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, breath, my air, and fire, my spirit. All right. So now let's close out with Om, sound of universal consciousness. Here we go. Unison, harmony, or improvise. All right. So with that, we will close out and we'll go into the water next week. Emotion and more. All right. Stay lush, use your tongues wisely, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.